Hello, fabulous entrepreneurs. Welcome to the first episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast for 2021. This is episode number 252. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about being totally over Facebook groups. All the relevant links and show notes for today's episode can be found at tashcorbin.com/252. So if you're over Facebook groups, if you are done with it, you just can't get it working for you, you are going to find this episode super helpful. Let's dive in. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. So if you've been in Facebook groups quite consistently, you've tried to promote your business, grow an audience, connect with people and get some sales, but you feel like it's too hard, it's too much work, it's just not going to happen, you're frustrated with that platform, I want you to know first and foremost, you are not alone. I think every entrepreneur who ever discovers Facebook groups as a potential platform for making sales goes through the process of being really excited and then maybe finding that it's either too much work or it's just not enough results in order to justify the work that goes into being known in Facebook groups. Mostly, the common issues that are raised with me about why someone might be totally over Facebook groups are that, number one, they feel like it's the same people that are in all of the groups and they're just seeing all the same people and not making any sales. Or number two, they don't want to show up daily. So it feels like there's this huge pressure to just be in all the groups every single day, and that's just too much time investment for them. Number three is they're in the groups, but they don't really know what to say each day. How do you find something new to say to a different group every single day? Being able to create content or find things to post each day just feels like they're scraping the bottom of the barrel. Or number four, for some general reason, they just don't feel like being in Facebook groups is working for them as a business strategy. Now, here's the thing, and it might be a tough thing for you to hear. Generally, if you are having trouble getting a platform to be effective for you to make sales for your business, the problem is not the platform. Oh, it feels so yucky to say this, but it is absolutely the truth, and it is a hard truth sometimes to swallow. But being in Facebook groups is one way to be able to reach a fairly warm audience, connect with them, and present offers that potentially have the opportunity to make sales in that space. And yes, being in Facebook groups is one of many strategies that you could choose from, and one of many platforms that you could choose to promote on when it comes to growing an online business. And you do not have to be in Facebook groups at all. If you find the idea of being in a Facebook community abhorrent, if you're just over it, you don't want to do it anymore, you're not interested, that is totally your decision. However, if it doesn't work in groups, chances are the platform is not the problem. So before you decide to throw your hands in the air and say, there's just all the same people in these groups and I'm not making any sales, or I don't want to show up daily, or I don't know what to say, or it doesn't work, Facebook groups are dead, I just want you to stop and ask the question, could it be that the problem is not the platform, the problem is what I'm posting? Because Facebook groups are an opportunity to be in front of such a warm audience. They are so favored in terms of algorithms, and they have so much potential for you to be able to connect, nurture, and convert an audience. If you can't make it work in Facebook groups, chances are it's also going to be a struggle for you on other platforms. Now, it might not be as much of a struggle if the content that you're sharing in Facebook groups is better suited to other platforms, but of all of the audiences you could access quickly and effectively online for free, Facebook groups is actually one of the best. So when it comes to the content that you're sharing, the posts that you're sharing in Facebook groups, and the strategies that you're using in Facebook groups, if we address issues with those first, then chances are you're going to love Facebook groups a little more. So if you think about the time and energy that you're putting into Facebook groups right now and the reasons why you're feeling like it's just not working and you're going to throw it all in and you're not going to be in Facebook groups anymore, if you were making $20,000 or $30,000 worth of sales in those Facebook groups from those activities right now, would you feel the same way? And if the answer is no, I wouldn't feel the same way. If it was getting me $20,000 to $30,000 a month, I would totally feel like it's worth it. Then I want you to invite you to give Facebook groups another chance. And then the second question is, if you were able to fix your content, your messaging, and the way that you showed up in Facebook groups so that it was absolutely effective and doing its job, would you still be sick of Facebook groups? If the answer to that is no, then I want you to give Facebook groups another go. But this time, I want you to be much, much more strategic about the way that you show up in those groups. So here are my top tips, and I have a great free resource for you if you want to go deeper with this one today. But here are my top tips. Number one, you need to be hyper niched. Now, I talk about niching all the time. I talk about needing to be really specific. And when I say niched, I don't just mean niche to the people in that group. I mean, you need to find a niche within a group. So if you're in a group of 34,000 amazing entrepreneurs, heart-centered soul-driven entrepreneurs Facebook group, for example, your content should not be written for all 34,000 of those people. Even myself, as the facilitator and creator of that group, you would think that all of the people in that group are my audience. No, they're not. When I create content that goes into those groups, when I create content, even in my own group, when I create posts, when I'm thinking about what I'm going to be sharing, I am thinking about 10% of those people in that group being my niche. So I want you to be very niched when it comes to what you share in those Facebook groups, number one. Number two, I want you to think about your strategy in those groups. Showing up and posting something each day that's in the theme and makes you look good is not actually a strategy. So I want you to be very strategic about what is it that you are doing in that group and what is the job that those posts need to do. Because not all posts need to do the same jobs. Some posts that you put into Facebook groups create lots of engagement. Some posts that you do in Facebook groups are high conversion posts. They're going to get people signing up to your list or going and checking out your podcast or signing up and buying something from you. But if you are constantly in Facebook groups thinking every post needs to make sales, then you are actually not being strategic enough with your engagement in that Facebook group. And you are completely misunderstanding the role that Facebook groups play in your marketing strategy. So the resource that I have for you is my $0 Facebook marketing plan. It is a free training on how to make money from Facebook without spending any money on ads. And there is a big focus on being in Facebook communities in that free training. Come on over to the show notes at tashcorbin.com/252 to register for that free training. You can access it instantly. It's all pre-recorded. And let's get you giving Facebook groups another go, but through the lens of being more niched and more strategic. And if at the end of the day you decide that Facebook groups is not the platform for you, don't take your problems with you to the new platform. If you decide I'm giving up on Facebook groups, I'm going to go and focus my marketing strategy on Instagram, then make sure you are taking a strategy that is niched and strategic for that platform. Because if you take all the posts you've been sharing in Facebook groups and put them all on Instagram and they haven't worked in a high connection, high conversion community, chances are that on a less connection, less conversion orientated platform, they're also not going to do that great either. The problem is usually not the platform. So hopefully this hasn't been too harsh, but it's given you some strategies and ideas to think about in terms of what you want to do if you are feeling like you're completely over Facebook groups. Now, the last thing I want to do on this podcast episode is also address those 4 main reasons, right? So number 1, same people that you're seeing over and over again. Now, on Facebook and in Facebook groups, that's actually a good thing because we know people need to see things over and over and over again before they'll take an action. So if you're in 3 Facebook groups and a large chunk of the people in those Facebook groups are in all 3 Facebook groups, the odds of those people seeing more of your content more consistently is actually way higher. And so you're building a high connection, high conversion audience by having that overlap. The goal is not to find Facebook groups that have a bunch of very different people in them and then try and magically create one strategy that's going to work for all of those platforms. I think overlap in Facebook groups is actually a really good thing from an algorithm perspective, from an engagement perspective, and from a conversion perspective. Number 2 was you don't want to show up daily. And this is a big permission slip from me. You don't have to show up daily. What I recommend is that you try and show up in your top 3 groups 4 days a week minimum. That's it. So if you are trying to work only 4 days a week, pick 4 days a week that work for you and that work for the groups that you're in, or pick groups that work for the days that you work. So let's say that you work Tuesday to Friday. The Heart-Centered Soul-Driven Entrepreneurs Facebook group is a fabulous group for you to be engaged in because if you're mostly just posting on Tuesday to Friday in the Heart-Centered group, you're getting your market day post up, you're getting some really good engagement posts up, and you're getting a freebie post up as well. So you're getting most of the benefit and most of the engagement parts of the Facebook community covered. If you happen to be on Facebook on a Saturday and you want to jump in and share a selfie, you can, but you don't need to be in Facebook groups sharing a post 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. If you get near enough is good enough. Get 4 days a week, most weeks, you are still going to have more chance of reaching a bigger audience and a more connected audience than if you were posting 4 days a week on a cold audience platform. So Facebook groups still have enormous power, even if you're not being in there every single day. Number 3, you don't know what to say. Usually that comes down to 1, not being niched. 2, not having a strategic content plan. So the Facebook marketing plan training will be really helpful for you. Or 3, you're trying to be in too many spaces at once. So just refine it down to your top 3 groups, 4 days a week, and link your content that you're sharing in Facebook groups to the content that you're sharing on your normal content platform. So if you're also posting on your Facebook page or you're also posting on Instagram, then you can repurpose some of that content to be effective for the Facebook groups. I find Facebook groups with theme days are way easier for me to know what to post because the theme days really help to drive the conversation. But I also have a huge content bank from all of the other places that I've posted content over the years, and being systemized about the way that I collect and share, reshare and repurpose that content makes my life way easier. So you can create a really simple and effective content bank or strategy for yourself that's going to help you be very strategic about how you share and engage in those groups more consistently. And then number 4, generally it's not working. I want you to come and watch that $0 Facebook marketing plan because I think that you will find that you're not necessarily being as strategic as you need to be, or there's other elements of your strategy that are meaning that your content when you're showing up in Facebook groups isn't working for you. So it's not niched enough. Your messaging is not resonant enough. Your offers aren't compelling to your audience. You're not being tangible enough. Those pieces are what make an epic strategic approach to posting in Facebook groups. So hopefully you found this episode helpful. As always, come on over to the Heart-Centered Soul-Driven Entrepreneurs Facebook group. Use hashtag podcast. Let me know you've been listening to episode number 252. And I want to know, have you had this feeling of like, I'm totally over Facebook groups? And have you got a renewed approach or a way for you to test, is the problem actually the platform? Until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. Make sure you come on over to tashcorbin.com/252, grab the $0 Facebook marketing plan. And until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.